at 20 FPS. I did 60 FPS when I was doing my drumming. I have some drums, and sometimes I stream that. And however, it just can't keep up with the amount of calculations on trading charts. So hopefully it should be fixed now. All right. So the reason why one of the benefits of these huge tails is if we're a retail investor and we're like, hell yeah, let's enter here, because we're a retail investor, we're an amateur trader. Let's enter here and we'll go and take profits, and maybe we want like a 3% profit. So we'll enter here. Now we may be playing at like 100% leverage. So it means like any loss and it'll liquidate our money. So this is these huge buybacks. So there's two reasons for this buyback. One reason is to liquidate retail investors. And the other reason is so that they can enter the new short position way higher. So the whale can then, buy and then sell immediately at 18 cents rather than at what the 16 cents or 17 cents that would be available to the retail investor. So one benefit of these for the whale is it liquidates retail investors. So it closes the short positions, which causes a buyback, and it makes a retail investor lose their capital. Now, if you had also a stop loss trade, so let's say you say, all right, I'm going to buy here, but I'm automatically going to sell at, let's say, 17 cents 50, then this would trigger that immediate stop loss, and then that again would allow the whale to enter the short position higher. So we will see these long candles all through the performance over the last few days. Now, why? So this is just, again, a short position, a whale opening a short position and then taking profits, opening a short position, taking profits, but it's different whales. So these different things. So we can put it into here. So this is, again, a whale opening a short position or closing, and then opening, closing, opening. It's very synonymous, closing and opening. So these are just short positions when we see these long movements. So here, this could have been a staggered one, because if we look here, we will see that it's still very tall candles. So these are just things to be aware if you're still an amateur investor, like I was before I learned these things. So yeah, these aren't rallies. These are short positions opening and closing. And if I was on a paid tier of TradingView, then I would be able to get the volume at which price tier on the side chart. But unfortunately, I'm not on a paid tier because I'm completely broke. And we can go into the reasons why later on in the stream. So that's just a warning for everybody. And we can see that now the price is dipping. So bear market, not and especially since Friday, 8:30 a.m. New York time, which was when the inflation rates of the US came in. It's just been this game of shorting, rinse and repeat. All right, let's go back to the elite chat. All right, so it's not pumping, it's short positions opening. All right, now someone else, they keep giving proposals about how to save it, how to change the tokenomics of StepN. However, you have to factor in these factors that are affecting the stuff, like these huge short positions. So first factor, since StepN launched, tokenomics required new players to join. Both realms have been seeing a decrease because new players are stagnating and active players have been leaving, according to June, which could be incorrect or incomplete. The team has announced several things to address this over the months, to address supply and demand, so anti-mint farming and anti-cheat. Now we'll go into this anti-mint farming later. Why does the team want to curtail mint farming? And we'll go into this. And anti-cheat, but also to address incentives, so GMT earning, mystery box dynamics. So how can we get new players in to address supply and demand issues? But as we can see, players are leaving and play count is dwindling. So that's not working. So that's one of the factors that is causing things to decrease. Factor 2, since Binance Change launched, tokenomics caused passive sneakers on Solana to reduce Solana GST burn, with active sneakers on Binance still earning GST. This caused Solana GST decline to go faster than the Binance GST decline. But remember, the factor of 1 still impacts both realms. The team have announced a plan to address this, so they will be curtailing energy. This, again, the thing that I asked about on the AMA, and I was told to get lost and StepN doesn't want me here. But then they acknowledged that it was actually an issue and what they plan to do about it. So they are planning to do something about it, but they're still keeping realms and they're still keeping energy deduction sharing. And why? Why not just have the realms independent or get rid of them? This has never been addressed. They've said it's to reward early players, but we'll go into whether it rewards early players later on. So 3, the third factor affecting the StepN's economy right now. So Solana GST is available for shorting on FTX. I'm unsure about Binance GST shorting options. As of a few days ago, there was $6 million shorting Solana GST to $0 on FTX. Today's volume for GST perp is 12 million. Compare that with what players are doing. The StepN DEX may address this as it incentivizes moving GST and GMT supply to the DEX. So DEX is a decentralized exchange, as SEX is a centralized exchange. So which may offer better incentives such as market maker interest rates over the current short sale returns. So they're planning to announce their own DEX called DUA, and that will put, so right now with Solana especially, people are withdrawing their GST from spending to wallet and then sending it to FTX to then convert it to gold or USD or do something else or do some whatever, or maybe even open short positions, which there is considerable amount of people doing, as we saw. So doing their own one will then bring supply away from FTX, so liquidity of the GST and token away and GMT token away from FTX, a place where they can be shorted, and then putting that liquidity into their own DEX. And that will only work if their incentives are better than shorting it on FTX. Hopefully that will be the case. They've kind of announced a few things for that. Or maybe they just disallow withdrawing and you can only do it on their DEX. Maybe, who knows? But some people are like, hey, just delist, get FTX to delist it. But FTX is like a SEX, a centralized exchange. However, you can't control a decentralized exchange of which there are many. So you can't regulate what other players are doing in their games. StepN can only regulate what it's doing in its game. So that goes into a little bit about shorting and what is shorting. Now, market manipulation, I kind of covered it in terms of whales doing these huge buyback wicks to then liquidate retail investors, so everyday or amateur investors. And to learn more about that, you can look at the Wyckoff method, the composite man, or even what happened with the GameStop short squeeze. Now, there's a brilliant YouTube channel called Coin Bureau. I cannot recommend this channel enough. They go into the macroeconomics of things. They explain market manipulation. They explain everything. Guy and his team at Coin Bureau. The only thing that I can criticize them on is he didn't call it out as a bear market earlier. However, again, with all of these things, you will find something that is typical in crypto, which is a complete lack of responsibility in those who profess it. In other industries, or say in medicine, or even with finance, if you are a financial advisor, when you profess something, you are now responsible of its impacts to who you professed it to. And this lack of accountability is completely void in the crypto space. Now, Coin Bureau guy, he is good at this. He does say at the beginning of every video, I'm not a financial advisor, do your own research. This is great, right? That's something for people to drill into their head, which is that you have to do your own research because there is no accountability. Okay? Unlike other industries. So something to think here. As we saw at the beginning of this AMA, there is no empathy at all to people. So why is the team cracking down on minting? Because so many people are like, hey, let's just mint. I want to mint. Minting's how we're earning our money. I want to mint. Minting's how we earn our money. But then why are they cracking down on minting farms by doing minting scrolls? So the reason why. So oversupply of sneakers increases the passive shoes to active shoe ratio, which ultimately decreases GST burning, thus lowering GST price. This is the entire reason the team has been fighting mint farming and plan to introduce shoe burning mechanisms. Minting only ultimately increases GST burning if the sneaker that was sold becomes, or minted, which is then usually sold, becomes an active shoe for the buyer or owner. If it isn't, if the sneaker becomes passive, then it's just ultimately increasing the GST supply for the mover who earns more GST from more energy by it being a passive sneaker. With current market conditions of less new players and more active players leaving, the probability of a minted shoe being an active sneaker is poor. And the rhetoric of minting shoes indeed burns GST is just short-sighted. It ultimately doesn't. So people are saying, hey, let's do minting because it burns GST. It's short-sighted. Once you mint that shoe, it is now, with current market conditions, most probably just becoming a passive shoe, causing an increase of GST supply when people move. That is why they're doing minting scrolls, to make sure that you move to burn the GST over the long term, rather just one-off transaction of minting. So again, a warning about the shorting because no one seems to understand that. So if you're wondering what the current minting cost and profit is for common and common shoe combos, this page will auto update with the latest USD result. You can use the drop down and switch between Solana and Binance. Alrighty, so again, myself, I did this, founded this community, Beverly, this philosophy and collaboration community in 2011, and myself, I've worked as a software engineer for my entire life since I was 15. I'm now 30 something. All right. So shoe minting. But the reason I raise that is these skills have been a very unique value in kind of seeing what's happening, and also my learnings from my own mistakes, which are not being owned up to anywhere. Like I fucked up and I don't see anyone else talking about that. Not my fuck up, but the collective fuck up in the StepN community. And they need to start being honest by being more transparent about the data. So this data is something that I've coded and I'm scraping StepN to pull in all this type of data. So shoe minting, common and common. So we can see that the cost to mint with GST and GMT falling, right? Because to mint 2 level 0 shoes, which are both common, you pay 360 GST and then 40 GMT, right? So that costs $85 to mint a common and common shoe with these stats. And we can see that the more mint level goes up, these are the prices you're looking at paying. Okay, so the lowest cost to mint is $85. And we can see that it pretty much exactly matches the market floor, $85. So mint farmers are still kind of earning something. And maybe they're taking it immediately and then just, nuking, turning it into shorts or whatever it is. So people keep saying mint farming isn't profitable, but we can see that if this cost decreases and the marketplace floor is still high, then the marketplace floor will go down. So right now we'll see that the marketplace floor will go down by another 55 cents very soon. And unless these prices go up, unless they charge more fees for GST and GMT, the marketplace floor will just go down. All right. Because you want to be the person who shells your shoes. You don't want someone buying someone else's shoe. You want to be the one that sells. So that's what this page does. And this is something that, again, I had to code all these things because there was no accountability or transparency in StepN, and there still isn't. I'm answering questions that no one else is answering because I'm scraping it and because I cared about this. Right? I wanted to actually do my diligence, like the diligence that I actually should do as a duty to my fellow humans. So, okay, What about gem selling? So the game has gone through different phases. So one is like the first phase would be minting, the second phase would be GST earning, or maybe they kind of happen coincidentally. But now that GST is worthless, people are looking at, hey, maybe I should have lucked up my sneaker and do a luck earning sneaker, a max luck sneaker instead. So that's something I thought about maybe 2 weeks ago. As I saw GST crashing, I was like, now would be time to get a luck sneaker. However, we still need to find out who the hell is buying these luck sneakers. So that was something I was curious about weeks ago, and I asked about this. Who's buying these? Can we get data on who's buying these? Is anyone buying these? And secondly, is the demand for gems? And then secondly, where is the capital coming from? Because there's one thing to have demand for a product or a good or a service, right? Like it's one thing to have demand for an item, but it's another thing to be able to afford that item. So if people are using their GST earnings to buy gems, then if the GST earnings are crashing, then so too would the gem price, because it has to meet what people can actually afford. If something costs more to produce and no one can afford it, then you have this huge stalemate in the economy where people will need to sell at loss. Because if the money isn't there, then there isn't going to be a buyer. So it forces people to sell at a loss. And so these are things that have to be answered to find out whether or not this gem phase, because GST has kicked the bucket, is actually going to be profitable. So I go into great detail on this. So I ask, and I've asked Gilgamesh, and I've asked other people, and I've got no response. What is the answer to this? What's fueling gem demand, and what will fuel the capital of that demand? So I go into this, like, great, you're talking about there is demand for gems, like shit, kind of, right? But, obviously they have the function in the game. However, is that function actually correct? Will it deliver on that function? And most importantly, is it actually leading up to people's thoughts on this? All right, so let's move into, so here we go. All right, let's look at okay, everything's here, good. All right, that's the AMAs from earlier. All right, bump. Have I been an idiot this entire time? Oh my gosh, I've shared the wrong tab. All right, I'll just show the I thought everyone was with me. All right, so if you're wondering about current minting cost, all right, here we go. So all right, when did I probably get off? Okay, game so short squeeze. That's when I then talked about Coin Bureau, so oversupply of sneakers, right? And now if you're wondering what the current minting cost is, so let me just click that again. So you can actually see what I was intending to sell you. Okay, so here we go. I said it would decrease by 55 cents, and we can see the situation here, right? So this has been updated accordingly. Okay. All right, and now regarding gem selling. So here's my questions, again, asking, and these are things I've been asking about for weeks now, right? So I went and figured this out. I went to figure out how are gems performing. So looking specifically at gems, let's look at the performance, okay? So compared to 2 weeks ago, a Solana efficiency level 2 gem is only worth 24% of what it was. So that's a 75% loss. All right, what about last week? Has it been better last week? Well, it's only worth 30% of what it was. What about yesterday? It's only worth 70% of what it was. The only one that has increased over the last 2 weeks or last week was luck level 1 gems. Everything else has completely crashed. And even luck level 1 gems in the last day have crashed by 15%. So are gems going to save your, finally offer you an ROI because you went on GST and hope to get an ROI on GST? Will gems be able to give you an ROI? No. The data doesn't lie here. So we can see like this is one of these impacts. Okay, well, what about shoes? What if I sell my shoes? Like, can my shoes still retain value? Well, let's look at the shoes compared to 2 weeks ago. The shoes have dropped by 32% on Solana. Well, I mean, dropped to 32% of their original value on Solana. And on Binance, they've dropped to 56% of their original value. Well, what about last week? Well, they've dropped to 60% of the value. So Solana Epics, they're going for higher, but I mean, you have to always answer who's buying it. So are people actually buying? And if the price is decreasing, then it means there's more supply and demand. If there is more demand than supply, then price increases. So we can see that the demand for gems and also for shoes have been decreasing relative to the supply. So the supply has been increasing and the demand has been decreasing. All right, what about rates? How has the market performed? And we can see that GMT compared to yesterday, 71%. Compared to last month, 38%. Right? GST Sol, compared to a month ago, GST is only worth 5.9% of what it was. And we can see this graph right here. So that's Binance BNB, that's Binance GST, Solana GST, right? So, you know, and this is a logarithmic graph, and we can change like what we want to actually see in this chart there. So this is all data I'm scraping because StepN doesn't give you this data. They don't answer your questions. They tell you to get lost, and that StepN doesn't want you here. And why would I spend 3 weeks or 4 weeks scraping this data, right, if I didn't fucking care? Because the thing is that for people who aren't about loyalty, they're actually about give me the data and let me have a reason to believe in you. So let's look at the calculator. Let's look at our ROI calculator. So I've updated this players one to look at resale value. So if we bought a sneaker, you know, just today, right, then by now it's already crashed. And if we sell it again, we're only selling it at like 92% of its original value. So that's even just today. Now, what if you got in like a month ago or 2 months ago, right? 6 weeks ago. Well, you're really looking at where your investment is only at like 9% of what it was, or 15%. So, you know, if you just decide to exit the game, and let's say you put 5 grand into it and a month ago, then that value is like 500 if you sell it at floor. And you could try and sell it higher, but there is no demand for selling it high. People are only buying floor, and it's really questionable why at this point. And you have to look at this. Like, this is meant to be Move2Earn, right? This is how it's sold. This is how this thing is operating. It's called Move2Earn. So you invest 5,000 because you're expecting huge returns, and your assets are only worth 500 now. And that's 9% of what they're worth, right? And you can add yourself as a player here, and then you can add your shoes details here. So, you know, here's that Adrian. So you say, yeah, I'm Adrian. This shoe is for Adrian. It's a Walker, it's a common. It was on Solana. That's when it was bought, and then that's how much I paid. And if you don't know how much you paid, you can just delete that and it'll use the average price on that day, right? So these ones, they don't have any data there, so it's just pulling in the latest data there. And yeah, it's going to give you the resale value and everything, right? But yeah, let's look at earnings. Like, is GST still an option? Well, let's say someone who buys in today, then they're going to be looking at profit in 75 days, but that isn't accounting this compounding effect. And this was one of my mistakes in this calculation, which was I was like, oh yeah, if the market decreases 10% or 20% or 70%, then it's like, yeah, I'll still get an ROI. But the thing is it's crashing like 20% per day. So really what this should have said was you're looking at 90% and or even 95%. So if we've changed that to 95%, let's look at when we'll get our ROIs. 743 days, 537 days, 1,000 days, 526 days, right? and that's at a 90% decline. But if we look at, again, the tokenomics is, and the reason why, and I'm not sure if I've shared this in the Discord, is that StepN launched with a broken loop. The loop of their economy was GST and SHU mining phase, and then a gem mining phase, and then eventually a GMT phase. And if they do GMT, then it closes the loop of the economy with that exchange to prevent shorting and bad actors, right? However, without GMT earning, then everything will just be a run to a race of a bloody ocean. So StepN says it entered a blue ocean market. It entered into this, and it was fairly new, I guess, in that sense. However, inside StepN of its own economy, there's also markets. There's the SHU market, there's the GST market, there's the gem market, and eventually there'll be the GMT market. But current dynamics of it will cause, because there isn't this GMT, like the only thing of limited supply in the StepN ecosystem is GMT. The rest are infinite supply. So it's no shit that without the economy revolving around GMT, everything's just going to spiral into infinite supply. And people are going to lose massive money until GMT earning is happening. And it will just continue to decrease. So at this point, if we go to my Move2Earn calculator, then we'll see that, however, price charts and calculator indicate that its Move2Earn promise only delivered Move2Broke, and players should have just Move4Free instead. So this is one of the sinister things about this, which is that they keep communicating that, hey, mental health is important. You know, maybe one day you'll get your ROI, except getting your ROI when the price charts are indicating and the calculator are indicating that your ROI is thousands of days away, and that historical performance is where your assets only valued what they were, like 5% what they were less than a month ago, right? Then you have to think like whether or not your belief in StepN is based on evidence or whether it's based on faith. And the more you get into the arguments when you're not, that completely go unaddressed, and the more you think about it and the more you put together the pieces, then yeah, it's just faith-based, and the tokenomics just aren't there to sustain it. They're playing catch up on something which shouldn't have launched until they could have done a closed ecosystem. So, well, why not just hold it until GMT earning happens? Well, sure, but you could buy back when things are $10, right? Rather than $100. And we'll see from historical performance, that's the way it's going to go. Just buy back then when they actually deliver on their promise. Because right now, the only thing they're delivering is Move2Broke. And then they say, hey, well, every day I'm running and, you know, it's been great for my health. It wasn't StepN that did that. What did that was the fucking running. StepN didn't give you the benefits there. It was your discipline around running that did that. And maybe StepN was the motivation, like the greed-based aspect was the motivation to get in on this market. Great, fine. But it's not StepN that's giving you that. StepN, the isolated benefit to the discipline of, like, there's two aspects here which StepN kind of encompasses. One is running for free or moving for free. And then there's a superset of StepN, which is spending $5,000 to have $400, $500, and an ROI that's the thousands of days away. And that $500, are people actually even buying those sneakers? So yeah, so that's what StepN's doing. StepN, or any Move2Earn, which is saying like, hey, you'll get free money, or, you know, you'll get this ROI if you do this investment. Well, you have to get the data, challenge what they say. You can't just be a zealot operating on faith. And I think for myself here, I did the calculations and there was mistakes that I made in this. I didn't take into account historical performance. I didn't take into account compounding losses. And now these charts reflect that. And no one else is doing this. And it's just gross negligence on their behalf, and even malice. Like we see from the AMA, they're not discussing this. And these are things that need to be addressed. You don't go on there and say, hey, everything's perfect. Hey, I'm running and I'm happy. You can run without losing $5,000. You can run every day. There's a discipline. So if you click Move4Free here, then you are going to get invited into a Discord server. Yeah, there we go. Called Move4Free. So hello everyone, this is a recovery group for those who were sold Move2Earn but only received Move2Broke. Unlike the Move2Earn cult, you have always been able to move for free. And we hope your experience moving every day has shown you that the benefits of Move4Free are independent than the benefits of Move2Broke. So yeah, you don't need StepN to run. You don't need to spend $5,000 and just watch it go down a toilet to run. You can run and you can have this community. And that's something that they talked about. They said, yeah, this is giving me a community, but a church is a community. So many things are a community. You don't have to be part of a cult that demands faith and loyalty and obedience and hope from you to be part of a community. You can be part of a community that is free and is there for you and is not profiteering from you at your expense. You can run and move without losing and being someone else's game. And this is something that I started realizing like a week or two ago. I just, as an entrepreneurial person, StepN really started, Move2Earn just really started grinding me the wrong way because I'm playing someone else's game. And whether I make money or I lose money or whether I perform is based on playing someone else's game. And I know that for most people on the planet, playing someone else's game is what they do 9 to 5, and then they play video games on the side as their entertainment, and then they watch a movie made by someone else. But as an entrepreneur, it's about playing your own game, and it's about making value. And there was a great joke in the Elite chat. Now that the StepN team have abandoned it except for Gilgamesh, who was just there trying to like stoke the flames but not actually address, these severe tokenomic issues. But there was a great joke in there, which was, I heard my friend told me about this great Move2Earn app, and it's called Uber Eats, and they're earning $200 a day, but all you need to invest in is a bike. Now, what's the difference between the Move2Earn app Uber Eats versus the Move2Earn app StepN? So with Uber Eats, you're investing real money to deliver real value, to get a real return on investment. Now with StepN, you're trading real money for fake value with no return on investment. So and I think the hardest thing about all of this was going from, as myself, someone who has spent so much time researching and studying cults and propaganda and civilizations, these alarm bells started ringing. And, when I was told to get lost for asking a question about their economics, and when people are getting muted for asking questions, and then the team just completely abandons it while they still earn money on sales. These all sent this kind of cultic alarm bell sensitivity in me off, and it was like, all right, well, they're pretty cultic, but maybe they know what they're talking about. But if we look, did I, hopefully I shared that and it wasn't just the thing, but yeah, if we look at what they promised, then invest in it when it delivers on the promise. And this is the difference, which is if you invest in Apple, you're investing in a company that actually delivers value to people, you know, or Tesla or any other company that delivers real value to people's lives. But the real value that is being delivered by StepN is not monetary, it is community, and that community can live without the monetary losses. You need to be able to distinguish the cult from the community, and the community is independent. And it's a great leap to go from there being cultic to I'm in a cult. So, all right, let me open up my Twitch dashboard and see if there was any interaction here, because I had to close that because my computer was struggling. All right. Anyway, yeah, don't be swayed by this. Just realize that the benefits you're getting aren't due to cult members who don't take accountability or responsibility, or, you know, profess anything that requires, I don't know. I think I've spoken everything I can. So yeah, if you want the join link for that, it's in the welcome Move2Earn document, and just click Move4Free, because there's no reason why this feeling of the community doesn't need to be, there's no reason why you have to spend $5,000 and lose it. You know, get promised one thing, get delivered something else, when in the end the only benefits you received were things you could have received for free. All right. And by all means, when they close the economy with or complete their economy with GMT earning, maybe it makes sense to reinvest then. The only question is, who's going to buy your fucking shoes when there is no reason to be in this until GMT earning happens? That's the big challenge right now. All right. See you, everyone. Bye.